Michigan State is 5-5. They're 3-4 in conference. They're probably going to beat Indiana this weekend. They're 10.5-point favorites there. And I am actually going to make a preview and prediction video for that game, Spartan fans, later this week. But I want to talk about something different. At 5-5, 3-4 in conference, regardless if Michigan State wins out, this year they weren't competitive with the two best teams in the conference or division. They played Michigan close for a few quarters, and they, had a pick six against Ohio State and showed some hope against them that you hadn't seen in the previous 2 years. But they still lost to Ohio State by multiple TDs, and they got bludgeoned offensively and defensively by Michigan. And losing to Washington, to Maryland, getting blown out by Minnesota, who, in retrospect, was not nearly as good of a team as they looked that day against Michigan State, and what was ultimately Peyton Thorne's and Michigan State's worst performance, in my opinion. Winning out wouldn't forgive the sin of losing those 5 games and how it was lost. And Michigan State, I would say very much it's very unlikely they will win out. They have Penn State, who right now is playing at a top 10 level, and they have them on the road. And with Drew Aller getting some playing time, and with a lot of those Penn State players returning next year, I think Penn State's looking to get every win they have an opportunity to achieve. They're looking to get every win they possibly can, in all seriousness. And the bowl opponent, if MSU faces any competent bowl opponent, that's going to be difficult for them to win too. Just looking at how they struggled against Rutgers, and that Illinois win, it was impressive. Illinois, however, is not without their problems. Doesn't go to say that it was a very impressive win, beating a top 20 opponent on the road with a 3-5 record. Mel Tucker and how they're 2-0 right now in the month of November. They're going to be 3-0 in my opinion heading into that Penn State game. Again, an official score prediction and a breakdown of that game I will release later in the week. But I'm telling you right now, Michigan State will beat Indiana, and I wouldn't be surprised if they covered, because Indiana is trash. Connor Bazelak is literally their entire team, and he did not play much against Ohio State. I think they started, or maybe because injury, I don't know what happened to Connor Bazelak, but Dexter Williams got most of the throws and most of the reps at quarterback instead. Tom Allen, Indiana, complete clown show. They're nothing like they were in 2018, 19, or 20. MSU should be absolutely fine against that team. Anyway, staff changes need to be made. It took me a while to get here, but staff changes just have to be made. Some of them do. Coordinators, both positions, there's reason to want change for both. In the beginning of the season, even after last year, everyone's looking at Scotty Hazelton with laser eyes, wanting to eviscerate him. And Scotty Hazelton, ever since that Wisconsin game, especially in these past 2 games with 8 players, including Jacoby Windman being suspended, the defense has been great, in my opinion, with the talent it has, with the injuries it's sustained, and with the suspensions it has. Defense has done really well. In recent time, it's Jay Johnson who's really being looked at as a suspect. Keon Coleman was doing really well against my Michigan Wolverines, and your offensive coordinator, if you're a Spartan fan, decides not to target him in the second half. Now, granted, a lot of that's probably due to Michigan's second half adjustments, but still, I don't even think a single, if not more than a single target to Keon Coleman in the second half, who is the second best or best wide receiver on the team, possibly better than Jaden Reed. I mean, Keon Coleman is just big, physical, talented, and Peyton Thorne was playing a decent game that night, given the fact that he doesn't really have an offensive line. Speaking of which, assistant coaches who could be called into question, I think, would be Harlan Barnett, defensive backs coach. That's kind of a duh. And Chris Kapilovic. I think he's paid $1 million or more as MSU's O-line coach. And at Michigan State has not had much of an offensive line. Their offensive line has been decent at best in either run or pass protection. Not both. They've had at best below average offensive lines all 3 years of Chris Kapilovic being at Michigan State. Now, he's recruited well. It's something that Harlan Barnett hasn't done. And he has actually had an offensive lineman drafted last year. One of MSU's offensive linemen did get drafted. But nonetheless, got to look at the entire unit. The entire unit has not performed well. Those are really the 4 guys that I look at. And, there's question marks surrounding them. And there's not much of a pass rush this year either. The defensive line outside of goal line stands has been weak, especially at the edge. Defensive tackles have been amazing when healthy. Linebackers, Jacoby Windman and Cal Halliday, when not on third down, have been pretty good. Defensive ends, not so much in my opinion, but Marco Coleman and Brandon Jordan are in year 1. They are proven, especially Brandon Jordan. I think just giving them more time is a must. Their futures should not even be called into question. But anyway, I want to get to what I think should be the necessary staff changes, and I think some of these other guys, there's a reason to go either or on them. Offensive coordinator and QB coach Jay Johnson and defensive backs coach Harlan Barnett should be released after the regular season. Don't even wait until the bowl game. Release them after the regular season. Just do it. Give you more time during, bowl practices to get in some coaches, see how the team is, do all these different things, and voila, get a new offensive coordinator, get a better secondary coach, really shore up that secondary. Because this defense in recent games has looked like the defense that I thought Michigan State was going to have this year. A defense that isn't great, but a defense that is average or good, one that is improved compared to last year. And this is with 8 of their players being suspended, mind you. And that's why, in my opinion, all other coaches should be safe, except for maybe Scotty Hazelton, just because some of the performances earlier this year and the reputation last year, and O-line coach Chris Kapilovic. But those are questionable decisions. There are reasons to keep them on the staff. There are reasons to have them fired, or reasons for them to be on a coordinator hot seat entering next season. And I think for offensive coordinator, Tucker should go after names like Robert Anae, who's at Syracuse, Mark Whipple, who's at Nebraska, and given their record, he is going to be gone after this season. Barry Looney Jr. from Illinois, who's done well at building Illinois' run game, and he's the quarterback's coach, and Tommy DeVito has been playing as one of the Big Ten's better quarterbacks this year. Or the biggest name of all, Garrett Riley, TCU's offensive coordinator, is their new OC. And if you're telling me MSU doesn't have the money to hire like Garrett Riley, look at Mel Tucker's contract and look at the fact that MSU's staff is the second highest paid in the Big Ten. You can get Garrett Riley if you want to. You can. Now, maybe he won't accept the job, or maybe a school like Alabama. Bill O'Brien's probably gone. They'd be geniuses to go after Garrett Riley. But MSU, you have money. You have donors. Look at Mel Tucker's contract and what I think Matt Ishbia is one of the names of the donors, what he's done to the athletic department. You can hire almost any name. You have big time money. Go out and hire a big time OC. And all these guys who I've named, not all of them are the biggest names, but I'll give you a reason, just briefly, for each one of these names on the offensive coordinator list. Robert Anae. Robert Anae made Brennan Armstrong look like a Heisman caliber quarterback. Brennan Armstrong is now one of the worst quarterbacks in the ACC. Robert Anae also, he's worked under Bronco Mendenhall for years. He was at BYU for 5 years. In his first stint there as OC and wide receivers coach. He was there again for 3 years from 13 to 15. He's at Virginia from 2016 to 2021. And now he's the OC at Syracuse. They've won 6 games. They'll probably win at least 1 more game, if not maybe 2. He has helped revitalize Dino Babers' program to at least go bowling. He's coaching. He's made Garrett Schrader look much improved compared to last year, and Sean Tucker is still excelling at Syracuse with below average talent. Mark Whipple, look at what he did with Kenny Pickett and Jordan Addison. Michigan State fans, you have Peyton Thorne, you have Noah Kim, you have Keon Coleman, you have Trey Mosley. Jaden Reed might go to, I think, is Jaden Reed a senior? Does he have to go to the NFL after this year? Tell me down in the comments below. I think he has at least 1 more year of eligibility, but you have talent at wide receiver. You also have, you have Malik Carr too at tight end. You have talent at the receiver position and such, and you have good quarterbacks. You have Caton Hauser too. Why wouldn't Mark Whipple want to come here? Look what he did at Pitt. And you do have running backs, Jalen Berger, Jarek Broussard, Elijah Collins is a senior who I think will leave he'll be done with the program after this year. But Mark Whipple, with his pass-heavy schemes, I think Michigan State should be a pass-heavy team. They struggle with running the football. Now, when they do succeed at running the football, they win. But I don't know if they have the talent at offensive line yet to consistently run the football and win. And this brings me to another coordinator, Barry Looney Jr. But Mark Whipple, with what Michigan State has at wide receiver and quarterback, and what Mark Whipple did with Kenny Pickett and Jordan Addison last year at Pittsburgh, and even what he's done with Casey Thompson and Chubba Purdy and Trey Palmer this year at Nebraska, with absolutely no offensive line, a broken culture, and a busted defense, those are impressive things. And Mark Whipple, he'll probably be released. Not a whole lot of other teams are probably going to want him. MSU can probably get him for a decent price, or they can probably afford to quote unquote overpay him. And I think that he would do well at Michigan State with the talent that they have. Barry Looney Jr. came from UTSA. He's at Illinois this year. He's transformed Tommy DeVito into a QB who has a 146.2 passer rating and a QBR that's top 35 in the nation, who completes 70% of his passes, has thrown for 15 touchdowns and 3 picks, a 5-to-1 TD-INT ratio. He has less talent than Peyton Thorne. Granted, he's played an easier schedule, and he lost to Peyton Thorne, and he's put up more productive and more efficient numbers. And he's done it in year 1. He's also helped Chase Brown become the nation's leading rusher at Illinois. Much like Mark Whipple, except Barry Looney Jr. won't be fired, and I think he just got extended, but MSU really could just pay the money. They have the money. It's Illinois. Michigan State has more resources. They're a higher caliber program nationally. They could poach him if they wanted. And Garrett Riley, and this is where I'll end the video. Garrett Riley, TCU, the Horned Frogs, are 8th in scoring offense, 40.5 points per game. Max Duggan has a 172.6 passer rating, 25 passing touchdowns, 2 picks. He has averaged 9.3 yards per attempt. He's passed for 2,531 yards. He's rushed for 241 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2.8 yards per carry. He's gutsy. He's not afraid to throw the deep ball. He's not afraid to run. He has some speed. And what Garrett Riley has done in 1 year at TCU, mind you, TCU had Max Duggan last year. They lost Zach Evans to the portal, and they went from having the 66th best scoring offense to the 8th best scoring offense. Garrett Riley, he's going to be sought after, highly sought after when this season ends, but Michigan State has the resources, they have the money. TCU, great QB play, good wide receiver play, good running back play. They have good trench play too, and their scheme helps them They run Sonny Dykes' unique air raid scheme where it's an air raid, but they make sure to get their running backs involved, unlike a Mike Leach air raid. Michigan State does have enough talent, and they're recruiting at a high enough level, and they most importantly have enough money to get a guy like Garrett Riley there. So I think those are some names. Don't know if any of them will become a new OC at MSU. Don't know if MSU will even fire their offensive coordinator in Jay Johnson. But I think they should move on from him and go after any of those names that I have listed. And I think that would really help MSU's offense next season. In my opinion, those are the necessary staff changes and possible staff changes and replacements for offensive coordinator that could or need to be made. If you like this video and like me talking about MSU football, make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell, and comment your thoughts on this video down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.